this is our first session that we are having in terms of the academy, and we're going to be doing a lot of these kind of sessions going forward um, because I just felt inspired to share what I've learned over the last 24 years being in business. And, I believe that, if one has received, to whom much is given, much is required. And so I believe that, this is my turn to share part of the wisdom and knowledge that God has given me in actually doing business in the marketplace over the last 24 years. So that's what we're going to be doing. This is the first session that we are having. And I believe on every Sunday, we're going to try and meet and share ideas. And I want it to be also interactive where you can ask questions so that it becomes more productive, where it's not just me sharing and speaking to you, but where you can also interact as well and be able to ask questions, So that's very important. And I want you to be able to go on Instagram and follow my page, go on Facebook and follow my page as well. And make sure that you're subscribed because I'm also sharing a lot of videos there as well that can help you as you go on your journey. And go also on the Academy website where you can also get other videos and materials over there. I've got my book that should be launching in the next 4 weeks. So you will actually be some of the first people to get a copy of that. It's called The Secrets to Riches. So you'll be able to get a copy of that and be able to, to actually get a discount on there and learn what I've got to offer you in that book as well. So I'm excited. In the next couple of weeks, we're going to have great people that are going to be coming. Next week, we've got Vashon Mitchell. He's a world-renowned artist. He's going to be joining us and talking about business, how he's built his business. And you're going to be able to interact with him. I've got people like Jeff Rich. Jeff Rich is a billionaire out of Silicon Valley, a technology billionaire. So he's going to be coming on board. You'll be able to also hear from him. We've got people like Pastor Paul Adefakun out of Nigeria who built a church worth over $100 million. We've got people like Dr. Dixon from America that will be coming on board and many, many others. So I'll be able to announce these people to you. And you'll also be able to get messages through your emails and through your phone so that you can keep in touch with the network, And I want it to become an interactive platform where, you're able to get help. If the help is not from myself, it's help from another business person who might be able to give you direction or assist you in whatever you need. Because I believe that success is tied to your partnerships. It's tied to the people that you interact with. So would like to get to know who you are. We're going to be sending you a survey that you can fill in to tell us more about yourself, who you are, what you do, so that others can be able to also benefit from what you're doing as well. So that's very, very important. So before we start, I want to just share a few rules, about this session and other sessions so that we can have a meaningful dialogue, okay? So, when you want to speak, there's a button on your Zoom where you raise your hand, and then the moderator of this session is going to allow you to speak when it comes time to ask questions. And then you can unmute your button. As it is, your button is muted, so you can't say anything that anybody can hear. But when it's your turn to speak, you have to then unmute your button, or the moderator will unmute your button, and you'll be able to ask your question. And also, when you ask your question, make sure it's a maximum of 1 minute. Don't try to stay within 1 minute. Don't go over 1 minute. so that we can redeem time and allow others to also ask the questions that they want to ask. And also, when you're speaking and your mic is unmuted, try to not have background noise. Try to avoid having music in the background or other people talking, because then everybody can hear it, if you've got background noise. Okay, so that's very important. And also, when you start talking, you need to say your name, say your surname, and tell us a little bit about what you do quickly, and then you can ask your question so that we know what industry or sector you are in, and then you can ask your question. And then obviously, lastly, I mentioned that we're going to be sending the survey. So you're going to be getting that survey that's going to, ask you more questions about who you are, etc. So when you get that survey on your emails, just respond to that so that we can be able to interact with you. Okay. So right. Okay. Now, I mean, we all know that we've entered a new decade. We are in a new decade right now, and the whole world is going through challenges right now, and everybody doesn't know what's going to happen tomorrow. Am I going to have a job? Is my business still going to be running? And what's the future going to be like? So it's important that we prepare ourselves for the age that we've entered into. We've literally entered into a new decade. From January 2020, we entered a new decade, and when this virus came in, it came in at a time when the global markets are being redefined as a result of the fourth industrial revolution. And so because of that, we find that we are having now to adopt to a new world than what we've ever known before. And so you've got to be prepared for that world. Otherwise, you'll find yourself in the back. It's like when the television came. Everybody said, no, I don't want to watch TV, etc. And then eventually people realized that their businesses could benefit through advertising via the television. And so others started using it, and those who used it effectively were able to actually advance. The same thing today. The world that we are in today is a world that's being driven a lot by digital technology. Right now we're able to speak. I'm speaking to you right now. We've got over 100 people subscribed to this event today. And I don't have to be in a building. I can talk to you via technology. It saves time, it saves money, it's more efficient, it's more interactive, it's more personal. So the world has shifted, and we've got to embrace the shift because we are not going back. So my aim is to teach us practical wisdom that will help us embrace the shift that's taking place worldwide, and also embracing practical experience. Because one thing I find everywhere I go is that business people always ask, okay, how did you make it? They want to know the practical uh, 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 things that took place for me to succeed. And then they've read books, they've read a lot of books that tell them 10 steps to XYZ, but the books don't always tell them how to deal with a situation when they face one in front of them, and let alone will they remember what they read in the book. So my aim with this platform, with this academy, is to be able to teach you practical wisdom. I've got 24 years of experience. Just to give you a bit of background, I started off my career with a company, some of you know it, called Dimension Data. I joined Dimension Data after coming from Olivetti. In fact, before Dimension Data, I worked for a company called Olivetti, a technology company, and I consulted with them in terms of total cost of ownership. That's when the computer was just coming in and the internet was just coming in, and they were a typewriter company, and so they were trying to understand what's the benefit of the internet, what's the benefit of the computer. And so I have a background in economics. I studied economics. That's my specialty. And so I combined my economics and IT knowledge to consult for them with large corporate companies. And so we started to check what is the return on investment on using technology. And but Olivetti did not change quick enough. IBM came in and took over, and so Olivetti actually then lost their global market, and today they don't exist because they didn't change fast enough when there was a turn. Every 10 to 12 years, the world goes through a metamorphosis. You can check it, check history. Uh, 10, 12 years ago, we went through a metamorphosis again, where the world went through a recession. So every 10 to 12 years, the world goes through an economic metamorphosis. And we're going through that phase, right? And so it's important that we prepare for this phase that we've entered in. And so when I left Olivetti, I started the first Black empowerment company under Dimension Data called Choice Technologies. I was the founder of Choice Technologies. Dimension Data held for 49%, and myself and my partner held 51%. And we had a loan of 5 million rand, but I built that company to a turnover of over 300 million per year. And by the time that I left, the company was doing over 300 million at that time. And then I left to form the Webcom Group. The Webcom Group then went on to build the e-native system of South Africa, which is the traffic information system of South Africa, a project worth over 2.5 billion rand. And today it's the largest traffic information network in Africa and the best in Africa. So that's something. Every vehicle is registered on that system. Your license plate, your driver's license, anything to do with cars, when you go to a vehicle registration office, is on the system that I helped to build. And then when I finished with that, I pioneered the cellular postpaid cellular contract within the cellular space with the cellular networks, where we were able to sell postpaid contracts using a call center model. So you didn't have to go to the shop to buy a phone. We could actually just call you on your phone. Yes, we were the guys that were annoying. I know some of you are annoyed by those people that phone you and tell you they've got a deal for you. So yes, we pioneered that, and we offered a free phone, free funeral cover, free delivery, free data, a lot of free things, which you pay over a 2-year period. So one of the things that I do that I'm good at is to innovate and to create things, and I like doing that. And so when we started, Cell C said, it's never going to work. And I spoke to the CEO, and the legal department said, no, we don't think you're going to succeed. I said, give me a chance. And they gave me a chance, and we ended up becoming number 2 countrywide. So that was a resounding success. So, we also, I'm in energy. I help utilities in Africa turn around utilities, those that are struggling. We work a lot with Eskom in South Africa to help them to get out of the hole that they're in. We go and invest money, and we then recover it from the benefit that we create from them, and we share the revenue with a revenue enhancement model. This is among other things. I've got shares in a construction business. I've got shares in a company that's in the healthcare sector, etc. So just to give you a bit of background, because I don't want you to think that I'm just talking to you because I read a book or something. What I'm sharing with you is stuff that I've learned. I've lost hundreds of millions of rand, so it hasn't been all rosy. I've lost money and I've made it. So I've learned through the school of hard knocks. So it's important. And I believe that's one of the things that I always desired starting in business, was to have somebody who's been there to mentor me and teach me and share with me what they have learned. And I never really could get that. So I think you must take this as something that's really, I'm not charging you for this. This is a free session, and you're able to gain knowledge that otherwise others would pay a fortune for. But one of the things that I'm very passionate about for me is and I don't know how many of you are Christians on this platform, and we're gonna find out as we get to know more about you. But I am a Christian, and my approach to business is largely founded on my Christian beliefs. You know, I have a question for you, and I know you won't be able to answer, but who was the wisest man that's ever lived? You know, and if you can answer on comments, maybe you can do that. But that's the question I want to ask you: who was the wisest man that ever lived? And I'm sure most of you will say Jesus, right? That he was the wisest man that ever lived. He said it himself. The one who was wiser, who was second wisest, if I can use that, was Solomon. Okay, but Jesus said, "A wiser than Solomon has come." All right. So Solomon, yes, was the wisest until Jesus came. Right. Now I have a question for you. If you know somebody that is very wise and that is very smart, okay, and would you not want to hear what they say? Would you not want to learn about what they say? I'm sure you would. Okay. So if Jesus was the smartest man that's ever lived, then surely you've got to be interested in wanting to know what he said, because that's only wise to learn from the best. And Jesus was the best. And in fact, when you look at Jesus, it's interesting that 90% of what he spoke about, his parables, were actually based on finance and business. And I know a lot of you don't even know that. 90% of what he spoke about was based on business. He spoke about the talents, the money. He spoke about the owner of the vineyard. He spoke about businesses. He spoke about hotels. He spoke about agriculture, the agricultural sector, the energy sector, the finance sector, tax collection, and all of that. He covered all the areas during his time. 90% of his parables. And also some people say, but Jesus was not he's not in touch with the real life, and he really didn't understand the issues that I'm facing. But you are wrong, because he actually did. The interesting thing about what he spoke about, he spoke a lot about real life issues. And in fact, one thing that fascinates me, which I'm still trying to understand, is why he used a lot of parables about things that were, I would call, evil. For instance, he used a guy who was robbed. He used a parable of a guy who was traveling on a road and got robbed. That's a parable. Then he used another one of a guy who owned a vineyard and then they killed his son. That's another parable. And then he said, be wise as a serpent. He used a serpent as an example. And then he said, wherever the corpse is, there will be eagles gather. And so many examples of real life. And I believe why he was doing that was he was trying to show us that he's not just in heaven. He understands what's going on in your business. He understands the challenges that you face, And so it's so important. Actually, one of the stories that he gave was of a guy who defrauded his master, and then he used that example to say that the children of the world are wiser than the children of God. But he was trying to teach a lesson there. And so what I'm trying to say is that I'm going to be sharing with you a lot of things that are in line with the Bible. And I'm not afraid or ashamed to say that, because those are the things that have made me successful, And so I will be actually guiding you in terms of those principles and leading you to a place where you make wealth, but you make wealth with peace and with joy. What does it benefit you to become extremely successful? And when you hit the pinnacle of your success, you're not happy, and you're empty on the inside, and some have actually committed suicide because they realize that money in and of itself without a purpose is meaningless. Money only makes sense when it has a purpose behind it. So if you just have it, it makes no sense, because you can only sleep in one bed at a time. You can only drive one car. You can only have one meal. You can only wear one pair of clothing. And you can only be at one place at a time. So even if you have 1,000 houses, but you can only be at one house at a time. So the pursuit of things for the sake of things is a vain pursuit. And it literally leads you to a place where you end up despairing in life. And so you gotta pursue money with a purpose, money with a mission. And that's so important that we are able to realize that, And so what I'm trying to say is that I'm going to be balancing business and the spiritual side of business. Most people don't understand that. And so there are very few books of people that teach about the laws that govern success from a spiritual point of view, because it's one thing to have a degree or to write a business plan. Actually, let me tell you a story. When the deal that I did for 2.5 billion to build the information system of the country, when I was actually going on the day where our document was going to be received and so on, the thing that I had put together, there was a guy with an Audi vehicle that drove a brand new Audi A6, and he was driving to deliver our document, and his engine blew up on the road. This was like an hour before the time that the document was due. His engine blew up. Now, some of you will say, no, it's just normal. It was a normal event. But after you learn the things that I have to teach you, you realize, no, it was not a normal event. It's not normal for an engine of a brand new Audi A6 to blow up when something important is about to take place. That's going to change a whole country and affect a whole continent. It's not normal. All right. So I'm going to show you some of that. You see, unfortunately, we sent another car, picked up the document, and it was delivered. So you must not fear when you face challenges, because you always win. If you understand the things that I'm going to be teaching, you realize that you always win. You should not be shaken by things that happen to try and discourage you. They are like mirages. Okay. So what you need to understand is that you have a mandate to create wealth. Okay. So a businessman that is a Christian actually has a mandate to create wealth, and that wealth has got to be tied to a purpose. And what is that purpose? That purpose is to help others. That purpose is to make a difference, is to empower the people of this world that God has chosen you to empower. So it's not money just to drive nice cars and to eat well and to fly well. It's money that has a purpose. So I want you to know that's very important. So it's important that you realize that. And so you need to realize that, yes, you will drive nice cars, you will eat well and all of that. But the important thing is that your money must have a purpose. And that's when money becomes interesting and becomes a blessing in your life. There are other people that have written books to inspire others, people like Napoleon Hill on Think and Grow Rich. There's another movement that's called The Secret, where they share the secret of success. And all they're saying, if I can summarize it for you, is that, it's important what you visualize. They try and say you must visualize a positive future, because, you have the ability to create through your energy and so on, but they just understand a portion of what this is really all about. And they're not wrong. They're actually correct, but they don't have the full picture and the full information, you see. So that's very important to know. So you need to understand that money must have a purpose. And today I want to share with you a story about the richest man that ever lived. Okay. And I want you to realize that there are three things in your life that you need to succeed. Okay. Number one is your mind. Your mind is so important to your success. In fact, it's probably the most important part of your success. How you think, how you see things is so important. Do you see the glass half full, or do you see it as half empty? Do you get discouraged when you face a challenge, or do you see the challenge and you say, okay, how do I work around this challenge? What are the options that I have? They say that Thomas Edison, the guy who invented the light bulb, among other things, tried 1,000 different inventions, and he failed. And on the 1,001 one, that's when he succeeded. So your mind is very important. Okay. Number two, as a Christian especially, the anointing is important. Okay? You need the anointing. And what is the anointing? We're going to be sharing about the anointing. Number three, your hands. Your hands are so important. You need to be able to work. You know, your mind can be great, you can be anointed, but if you don't take steps to working and doing something, you know, you're going to find that it's going to be fruitless, and it's not going to work. If you have a great idea in your mind, an invention in your mind, and you're not able to take the time to begin to get it to materialize, it's going to be fruitless, you know. So it's important that you know those things. Now, the richest man that's ever lived, Solomon. What happened with Solomon? Okay, Solomon was an ordinary guy, but Solomon, I want to tell you this: Solomon had wisdom already before he was given extra wisdom by God. Why do I say that? Because the way Solomon answered when God visited him showed that he was a wise man. And let me tell you the story for those of you who don't know what happened. So here is Solomon. Solomon is the son of David, and he's an ordinary guy. And so he begins to do things that move God. Okay, he begins to give and sacrifice to God, and then God gets happy because Solomon's heart is towards God. Okay, and so God visits him in the middle of the night, and God doesn't ask him any questions. God says to him, "What do you want?" Okay, and then Solomon says, "God, you know, you've given me a lot of people to rule over. You know, I just want to be able to rule them with wisdom and be a blessing to them." Okay. And so God says, "What? You mean to tell me you're not asking me for money? You're not asking me for a jet? You're not asking me for a mansion? You're not asking me for your enemies? You're asking for something that will help other people." So that's the first secret right there. And so God was impressed by Solomon. And so God said, "You know what? Because you didn't ask for something for yourself, I'm going to bless you with riches, with wisdom to rule my people. But also, I've made you the wisest man in the world, but I'm also going to give you what you didn't ask for. I'm going to give you riches. You're going to be the richest man that ever lived." You know, Solomon ended up amassing trillions and trillions of dollars. Right up to this day, there is nobody that's ever lived that's as rich as Solomon, if you do the calculation. I think I did the calculations the one time. I think his income was about 1.3 trillion US dollars every year. This is annually. I'm not saying over his life. This is annually. He was earning 1.3 trillion US dollars every year. So can you imagine what that became? You know, he made gold as dust. Okay. So the second thing is that Solomon. So number one, Solomon didn't think of himself. So if you want to make money, your money has got to be tied to how you're going to use it to help others. You know, so that's very important. Okay. Some of the richest companies in the world, when you study them on the Forbes list, a lot of them are givers to other people. Many of them, 10% of their income they give to different causes, to charity and so on, you know. And everybody's talking about Bill Gates right now, and because of the virus and the vaccine. But Bill Gates gives a lot to for malaria. He gives a lot to various causes. Okay, I don't know about his other things that he's doing, his life and all of these issues about the vaccine. I'm not talking about that, but I'm talking of the fact that he gives. Okay, the richest man today, Jeff Bezos in the world, just recently, a month ago, he gave 10 billion US dollars to help with climate change. Can you imagine 10 billion US dollars? And I can go on to reach the community that you're in, to help the people around you, not just you and your wife and your children, but everybody else. Okay? So it's very important that you learn that. And so God says to Solomon that I've given you riches, and I've also made you the wisest man. Okay? So there are two things we learn from the story of Solomon. Number one, he didn't think about himself. He thought about the people of God. All right. Number two, Solomon was interested in the work of God. All right. So he was interested in the work of God because he wanted to build a temple. important that you realize that, and it's important to learn from the richest people. Okay? So giving is so important in understanding how to get wealth and how to make money. And because money is spiritual, money is not just uh, uh, um, a piece of paper that you have in your hand. Some of you know of people that actually go to sangomas and they sleep there at night and so on. You know, it's because they understand that there's a spiritual world that controls these kind of things. It's just those who believe in Jesus choose to follow different principles. Okay. So what I'm saying to you is that money is spiritual and you need to realize that, you need to connect yourself with the power that's able to make you succeed. All right. And then obviously there's other things that you need to understand during this time. And one of them is the fact that, it's important that you are able to choose an area of business that's actually going to be sustainable beyond the coronavirus. Don't invest in a company that is not going to make it after the coronavirus. You know, it's a futile exercise. Yes, the business might work now because there's a demand now, but how will the business survive after that? And you've invested so much. So think about a business that's going to last beyond just this virus, so that you know that your business is an advantage going into the future. Right now, 97% of the people in the world are slowing down, and only 3% of the people are speeding up during this time. 97 people percent of the people have slowed down. Now you've got to be part of the 3% that's actually speeding up and not slowing down. You know, because it's in this time of crisis that you need to position yourself and be able to, uh, 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 um, you know, identify those opportunities. And if you don't speed up, you will become heavy. You will overweigh yourself. You see, so you need to accelerate. And when you accelerate, you see, there's two things that you need to realize. There is a thing that you call starting a business, and there's a thing that you call launching a business. Those are two different things. Okay, when you start a business, it's like an aeroplane that's taking off. It takes off on the runway like this, and it goes. Okay, all right. When you launch a business, it's different. It's like a rocket that's going into space, right? It ignites and then it shoots straight up. It doesn't have time to go on a vertical trajectory. Okay. So in this period, this is the time to launch. It's not a time to start. It's a time to launch because of the times that we're in. All right. So it's very important that you realize that, and also realize that you can learn from anybody. You don't need anybody can teach you something. Even the guy that's working in your house, or the cleaner, or the guy that, you can always learn something from everybody. So it's very important that you realize that everybody can teach you something. Very, very important. All right. So you need to position yourself and be ready to receive something from everybody. You know. So yeah. So that's really what I have to say today to you. And and I want you to realize that, right now you might be in circumstances that are not the best, but you know what? It's okay. As long as you stay focused, as long as you keep on the road and doing the things that you're doing, you're going to get there. So don't despair. So today I want to give you an opportunity to be able to ask questions, so that we can interact via your asking of questions, so that we can be able to then answer those questions, and we can take it from there. So I'm gonna allow people to ask questions. Whoever is then allowed to ask questions can then come on board and ask. Yeah. Okay, who's got a question? If you have a question, just unmute and um, and and then ask your question.
Hi, Dr. Walter. Can you
Hi,
hear me?
how are you?
I'm good.
Yeah, I can hear you.
Yeah, Taurai Kaura
Hi,
is the name.
Taurai.
Yes. So,
Hi,
Doctor,
hi, Taurai.
how are you doing, sir?
Very good, very good.
Awesome. So, Doctor, I've been following you for quite a long time. From time when I met you at a certain church that we used to go together until such a time as now. So, one thing that I wanted to ask you, you raised two, I think, two interesting topics. I was starting a business and launching a business.
Yeah.
So it's, let's say in my line of business, I've registered a business. So what's the definition of launching and what's the definition of starting? How do you go about launching it instead of starting it?
Okay. Right. Now, uh, uh, starting it is fine. Okay, in terms of registering your company. Okay. Now, when I talk of launching, I'm talking about your go-to-market strategy. This is after you have done the registration of the company, you've gotten your tax clearance certificate, you've maybe opened offices, and you've got your business card, and you've got your business plan. Okay, so all of that is needed. That's part of starting the business. But I'm talking about your go-to-market strategy. You know, your go-to-market strategy has got to be vertical. Okay, you've got to launch it if you wanna succeed. Because if you don't launch it, you know uh, there's a when you look at aerodynamics, okay, when there's a point where in the atmosphere where you cross the gravitational pull, where you are no longer able to be pulled down. Okay, you are now in orbit. Okay, and at that point, it doesn't matter what happens. You cannot come down anymore. So when you launch your business, you need to get your business into that orbit realm where it cannot come down anymore. Okay, so that's really what I mean by launching. Okay, because they say a lot of businesses, you know, uh, 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 9 in 10 shut down after a year or after 2 years. It's because of some of these issues that the business started, but it did not launch. Okay, I hope I've answered your question.
Indeed. Thank you so much, sir.
Okay, all right. Shall we have someone else?
Good evening, Doc.
Hi, good evening. How are you?
Awesome, saying. How are you?
Very good. Therefore,
Thank you. Thank you so much for this opportunity, sir, that you've given us today. We really appreciate it. My name is Tsepo Mkwanazi. I'm the owner and CEO of the company called Imbeu Investment Holding. My company actually, we look for opportunities where we can invest, or we also look for business ideas that we can develop and even grow, and then maybe take up a stake on whatever ideas that are coming externally, depending on the availability thereof. How do you price yourself in such a way that you can be able to even sustain that period where it's dry, and then be able to enter again when the period is okay? Because I'll give you an example. Some of our competitors that we've checked and looked, you'd find that to build one service station, they will quote something around your 19 million. Whereas with us, we are not even in the region of over a 10 bar. And then, so it became a worrying factor to me to say, is our pricing correct? Are we underpricing ourselves so much so that even these people are seeing us as an interesting space to say we can get them to do the work, and then we can pay them off whatever it is that they've actually priced us, and then we can go to a client and actual price beyond what these guys are pricing. But my question really is focused on saying, how do you get pricing right? I think that's the first base. And then the second base would be to say, what strategies should one employ in order to entrench themselves in the space? Because a couple of black companies trying to come in the very same space, and so we've got the likes of your Xenex and all of the likes. But after a while, you never hear of them again. You know, you still are sitting with your mainly overseas companies like your British Petroleum, like your Shell, and like your.
Okay.
Thank you, sir.
All right. No, that's okay. That's a very, very good question. Now, okay. Uh, uh, Pricing is always the biggest issue in business. Okay. That is the thing that is used a lot by your large players to dominate others. And it becomes a barrier to entry for many players. You know, because if you, as a medium business, a small to medium business, are trying to get into a space where BP is playing, for example, you'll find that, you know, your pricing model is not going to work, you know, because, you know, your cost of finance, your resource base, your capital costs will not be able to carry the pricing that you offer the market. And so you're already priced out before you start. Okay. So what do you need to do? There's a number of things that you can do, which is what I've also done in some of my business. Okay. You need strategic partners that are way bigger than you. Okay. That are able to carry the burden, the price burden, much longer than you can. All right. And then you identify what your value add is in that space. Okay. As an example, you might have the market. Okay. Because there are markets that others, you know, cannot access. Okay. But only yourself, either because you have the relationship or because you know how that particular market works. And so you bring that advantage to the table. Okay. You know, one of my quotations that I like to say is, you know, the key is to be key. All right. So you need to be key in that partnership. The mistake that a lot of people do when they enter into partnerships is they bring an idea, or they bring a particular person who's got something that this other guy wants, and then they kick themselves out because they are no longer needed. Do you understand? So the minute that you bring this other party, you are no longer needed. You know, so what's going to happen naturally with human nature is that they're going to exclude you from the matrix. After a week or two, it's just going to be a natural thing that happens, that, you know, they end up talking themselves, and then because you are not bringing any value. So you've got to bring value to that partnership, okay? And find a partner that's strong enough that can work with you and understand the value you are bringing, and take a long-term view, you know, and then work through that, so that, you know, you're able to then deal with the issue of pricing, you know. So that's very important. I think that probably may answer your question. I don't have the full fact.
Thank you so much, sir. I think I've got a couple of nuggets that just came out of that, which are very vital.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
And luggage trailers as well. But unfortunately, due to the lockdown and the virus, our business is unfortunately had to shut down. So my question is more of a direct question to ask, what kind of opportunities can we explore during this time? What kind of businesses can we look into?
Okay. All right. I think you have to look at what's happening right now. The businesses that are operating are in the area of essential services, right? So
Yes.
it's essential services that are actually being allowed to trade. So I would say look at the areas of essential services. But I would also add and say not just essential services, look for essential services that are going to last beyond the COVID. And that's what I said at the beginning. So if you're choosing an area in essential services, make sure that you are building a model around that area where that business can last even after COVID is over. In my view, COVID the issues around COVID are going to be around at least for the next 2 years, you know. So that's my view. At least another 2 years, we're going to be going through the issues around COVID. I hope that answers your question.
Yes, thank you.
Good evening, Dr. Walter. Good
Hi,
evening,
good
Dr.
evening.
Walter.
Hi, good
Yes,
evening, Jacob. Yeah, we
good
can't see you.
evening. Oh, okay. It's okay. I can see you. Dr. Walter, my name is Jacob Musasa. I
Okay.
operate a solar franchise for a South African company in Zimbabwe. So
Okay.
I'm in that position whereby I want to launch the business because the opportunities are so huge for solar products. And the products that we offer are unique. The people, the market, they like it. They like the product so much. And I believe this is the time to launch the business. What I'm asking from you, some of the strategies that you have learned by experience that one can actually use at that stage of launching the business.
Okay. So you are in Zimbabwe, you
Yes.
said. Okay. Okay. All right. So it's there are various strategies, but one that you obviously what you need to do is to do a market research. Okay. Initially and find out where the demand is for your product. So that's the very first thing you need to do. You have a product, but you need to check, do a research on the demand for your product, and also not just the demand, but the ability of your customers to pay, because you can have a product that's in demand, but your customers may not be able to pay either because it's overpriced or because they just can't afford it. Okay, and if they can't afford it, you have to put mechanisms that makes it affordable. For instance, you partner with a bank that can carry the debt for the customer for a 12-month period. So they give the customer a loan, they pay you upfront, and then the customer deals with the bank over a 12, 24-month period.